It's week 2 for Kelly's HR month, so thank you again to Kelly for this challenge, and thanks to George for testing it out for us. So we've got this generations data set that we're bringing into our data today, so we can see the start years and end years of all the different generations. There's also a source field, but I decided we didn't need that in the challenge, so I got rid of it in the input step. So first up, we're going to work out the generation name. So we're just going to rename those generations so that they have a bracket with the years that covers in them. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to say that we add our generation name, and then if that start year is null, we're going to make it a born in or before and the end year. If the end year is null, then we'll make it born in or after the start year. And then finally, if there aren't any issues with nulls, then we just want it to be a open bracket, the start year, a hyphen, and then the end year with a close bracket. So that's how we get this field here, and then we just remove that generation field. Then we want to fill in these null values, so make sure that this has a value and this also has a value. So the way that we'll do that is we'll say if null for our start year, we're just doing the year of today minus 150. Make sure that even if anyone were born in 1873 in this data set, they'd be picked up. Probably a bit extreme, but we were just making sure that's a nice lower bound. And then for the end year, we just want to do similar to that. We're just saying if null for the end year, make it today. So replace that null with 2023, the most recent date that we have. Okay, and then from our employee data set that we created last week's challenge, then we're going to look at the date of birth that we have here, and we're just going to extract the year from that. So just do the year of the date of birth to create the birth year, or even we can go to the date of birth and say convert dates and get out the year number. That's probably what I should have done. That would have been quicker than writing a calculation. Now we're going to do a join to join these generations to the employee data. And we're going to use two different join clauses here. So we're going to say the birth year has to be after the start date and the birth year has to be before the end date of that generation. So we just want to change this operand to be less than or equal to for the end year and greater than or equal to for the start year. It's one of the coolest things about joins in Tableau, I would say. And then we need to make sure that we're doing a left join so that we're taking those values here where the date of birth is actually null for these employees. So it's a shame that we don't have the date of birth for them, but we still want them to be included in the analysis. We're going to replace for them the generation name as being not provided, so just make sure that null value in the generation name gets updated to not provided just by double clicking in the null and renaming it, and then getting rid of any unnecessary fields that we no longer need. That creates for us the first output, which is great. Now for the second output, we're going to just remove the fields that we don't need from the employee dataset. So we only need to think about the employee ID and their date of birth. And then we're going to join that together with the monthly dataset on the employee ID. Then we're going to calculate the age of each of the employees in that particular month of the dataset. So we're just doing a date diff for the year, date of birth to the month end date, and see how old they were in that month. And then we'll just make an age range field. So instead of doing it by generation, we're doing another way of bucketing up the ages. So you can see what we're going to get to here is these like 25 to 29 years, 30 to 34 years, so on and so forth. So let's just see the calculation there. So we'll start off by if the age is less than 20, then they're under 20 years old. If the age is greater than or equal to 70, then they're 70 plus years old. If that value is null, then it's not provided. Else, we're going to do a little bit of trickery here. So we'll do the age divided by 5, and we'll take the floor value of that value. So say, for example, I was doing 21 divided by 5. That would be 4 point something. It would then reduce that to 4 and then times by 5. And then we do that again, but then add 4 to it. So we're just getting to the kind of bottom and then to the upper of that. Okay, so Don't worry if that was difficult to work out. You could always have done it kind of a bit more manually, but this is quite a nice, cool, dynamic way of doing it. So thanks to Kelly for coming up with that suggestion. It's really cool. So that's all of our buckets for our years there. And then we've reached the end. We've got our output, our second output there. So hope you enjoyed that challenge. Thank you to Kelly for coming up with it. Thank you to George for testing it. And thanks to you for watching.